Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron have held their closing press conference at the G7 summit in Biarritz. The two leaders announced agreement to seek a global solution to the issue of digital taxation, as well as a willingness to work together on a wide range of global issues. The US president said there had been great unity at the summit, an assessment confirmed by Emmanuel Macron, even if he admitted the talks had not always been easy.
There was a lot of nervousness at the outset, a lot of expectations, a lot of tensions, and we had a lot of conflict. And I can say that what we were really keen on was to convey a positive and joint message following our discussions. Discussions on several topics.
Well, the US President Donald Trump told the conference he was confident that China would need to come to the negotiating table over trade. And he said a peaceful solution to the Iran nuclear conflict was possible without the removal of the government in Tehran.
I think that Iran is a country of tremendous potential. We're not looking for leadership change. We're not looking for that kind of change. This country has been through that many times before. That doesn't work. We're looking for no nuclear weapons, no ballistic missiles, and a longer period of time. Very simple. We can have it done in a very short period of time. And I really believe that Iran can be a great nation. I'd like to see that happen.
Well, for more on this, what happened in the summit, let's talk to our political editor, Darren McCaffrey. Darren, lots of warm words there expressed by Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron. They both stressed there was unity and good feeling and amongst all the other leaders there, but perhaps a lack of any concrete measures.
Yeah, I think that's possibly true, Totes. You're right to say that President Macron was slightly nervous, I think, about this summit here in Biarritz before it started. We all know the chaos that ensued after the one in Canada last year. But it must be said, at least on the surface, Emmanuel Macron seems to have inspired some type of diplomatic effort by the United States, a very optimistic Donald Trump, and re-sparked that bromance between himself and Donald Trump. Lots of hugging towards the end of that press conference a little bit earlier today. Quite significant potential moves on Iran. This idea that potentially in a few weeks' time at the UN in New York, President Trump could meet President Rouhani of Iran. Clearly tensions have been rising pretty significantly over the last couple of months in the Gulf. Real fears that it could have escalated into a conflict. Now, this is a window of opportunity on that issue. Whether it will be grasped or not, we're just going to have to wait and see. And on China too, again, President Trump being quite conciliatory, seeming to reach out to the Chinese government, talk about the fact that a deal could be done and that he was open to doing a deal. So I think there has been progress on that. It must be said, not unity in all issues. President Trump definitely totes absent from that meeting on climate change this afternoon when they decided to give $20 million to try and fight the Amazon wildfires. But I think President Macron will be pleased as the sun sets here on this G7 summit. But be in no doubt, we have to remember we're dealing with President Trump, a man who often says one thing, but of course goes on to do something entirely different.
Darren, will this weekend at Emmanuel's, as some might describe it, go down as a disappointment? Did it live up to expectations compared to the last one? Certainly it did.
Yeah, I think, as I say, I think the President Macron can be quite pleased ultimately with the upside. There was lots of talk between him and President Trump about how it had been a constructive G7, how there had never been such a show of unity before, that ultimately people didn't want to leave the room. It had been that successful. But I think the proof will be in the pudding, essentially. I think the judge of whether this weekend in sunny southern France has been a success or not is whether that optimism, that rhetoric we heard today from both presidents, and indeed in the communique that followed afterwards, whether that actually turns into some provable, tangible success. Well, as I say, over the next weeks and months, whether this trade deal finally gets done between China and the United States, it's having a drag on the global economy, and whether President Trump does actually meet President Rouhani, well, if those things do happen, it will be judged a success. If they don't, it could end up just being, again, what many feel the G7 is, Totes, which is simply a talking shop.